What is going on, First Round Fantasy fans? Welcome to the First Round Fantasy YouTube channel, your home for second round advice. I am Jacob Bartley. I am joined by Joe Morsauce and Justin Morsauce. What is going on, guys?
Yo. Good to be back.
Sunday.
So this is the first of our second weekly podcast that we're going to be doing. So there's a couple reasons we wanted to do this. When you're covering fantasy, it doesn't make sense at all to do one podcast a week. There's too much information. There's too many games. There's so many updates that we aren't covering, more than 50% of what most fantasy podcasts and websites are covering or whatever. But at the same time, we're not full-time. We don't do this full-time anyway, so that's fine. But I do think 2 a week makes sense for us, for our schedules and all that stuff. And there's 5 of us, so it makes sense. And also, I think Saturdays are the best day. We're recording on Saturday. I'm actually going to edit and get this up on Saturdays as well. I listen to a lot of fantasy podcasts, and none of them put up stuff on Saturdays. None of them. And I get it. They work all week and then they want a day off to relax, and then they have Sunday, right? And so basically Sunday through Friday, they're straight up working the whole time. But they're talking about fantasy, so I'm sure they don't mind. But on Saturdays, I have nothing to listen to fantasy related. So I'm like, if I was out there, I would want something to listen to on Saturdays. And also I wanted to talk more about strategy stuff. Justin and I were getting into trades a lot last episode and talking about ways to manage your roster, things like that. And that's the kind of stuff I want to get more into, but you can't do that when you're covering games, reviewing the games of on Sunday. So I actually am naming this the Fantasy Strategy Podcast. Fantasy Strategy on Saturday podcast is the nickname, though, for it. So that'll be what it is going forward. And we have a template for this show, but it could change going forward. But first and foremost, we're going to start with recapping the Thursday game. So we had the Buccaneers and the Bears. Man, this game had basically a lot of downs. Even the players that performed for fantasy, it wasn't promising performances like Mike Evans or David Montgomery. But I'll tell you guys what, my one takeaway from this is I am done with Scotty Miller. I am done. Absolutely done. I'm dropping it. I hate the fact that I have to look at him in my lineup right now. Normally when you have a player on the bench, you can drop them, right? I would have dropped him right away, pick somebody else up. So I started him in 2 leagues.
Oh, wow.
And I am just sick of looking at that 0. It happened with Brandon Cooks last week, but I don't want to drop Brandon Cooks yet, especially when I have Will Fuller. If one of them goes down, the other one's going to be the number 1 target. Well, Will Fuller is right now, but I feel if Will Fuller went down, Cooks would get a huge bump.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely done with Scotty. Justin, you called it on when we were doing our waiver wire pickups. I said he was a must own or must roster, and I'm completely out of the game. I don't care if he's the number 1 wide receiver going forward. I'm dropping him after because if I drop him and he goes off next week, other people are going to pick him up. I'm not picking him up if he goes off next week.
Yep.
Well, how do you guys feel about that? And then what else do you take away from this game?
So, Scotty Miller, I don't know that I'm going to necessarily drop him right off the bat, but if there's somebody else that you're eyeing on the waiver wire, then I don't have a problem with you doing that. But my biggest takeaway from this game, guys, was Ronald Jones. And that may be because I am the new owner of Ronald Jones off the waiver wire. And I couldn't believe he was there, man. And I'm sitting there at number 3. I just lost Eckler. Galladay's on a bye after he's been injured. And I'm like, man, Ronald Jones is there. And Tanyan was. And I was talking to Justin. He's like, I hope I get Tanyan. And I'm like, well, you better hope I get Ronald Jones, because if not, Tanyan's my second option. And I ended up getting Ronald Jones. I threw him in the starting lineup. And listen, it wasn't the best fantasy game. He only had, I think, 15.5 points, which isn't bad. For a waiver wire pickup running back starter, I was happy with it. But it's how he ran. It was a lot of times where he was getting hit in the backfield and spun out of it, and ended up turning into a positive gain. And it wasn't a pretty game for either team. So I think a week where both teams where Tampa Bay's scoring more that we know they can, Ronald Jones has a lot more potential. So I'm rooting for him over Fournette for going forward. And after that week, I was pretty excited to see it.
Ronald Jones is a hard runner. Like, he runs really hard, but he cannot be involved in the passing game.
No.
Because but their dude, the rookie, Keyshawn Vaughn, he fumbled twice. Like, I don't know if he fumbled last week, but he at least dropped some significant passes last week, and he fumbled this game. But so I think, like, you know how Brady is. If once you piss him off, or you lose his trust, you have a hard time working yourself back into the lineup. But I still think once Fournette comes back, he's going to play a huge part. I mean, it's going to they're never going to just one guy is the workhorse where they're getting all the passing work and the running work. I don't think.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And listen, Ronald Jones, I think he had a fair bit of targets. I want to say 5 or 6, because I know he ended up catching 3 balls, and there was a couple of them that Brady didn't really put on the money.
Yeah.
They were catchable balls, though, at least 2 of them that I remember watching, like, oh my God, because I'm sitting there with Alyssa watching the game, like, throw it to 27. She doesn't know the guy's name, so I just say the number. I'm all, throw it to 27. And it goes right through his hands, and I was like, God, man, he had potential to have an easy.
He's capable, but Fournette is a better catcher than he is.
Oh, easy,
sure.
Easy.
Justin, you just traded away David Montgomery. How'd you feel about this performance?
Demont got, I think, just under 19 PPR, and it was the ugliest, most undeserving fool's gold if I've ever seen it type game. But the problem you have is the volume is there for him. So it's not like you don't want to continue to play him, because even with a garbage game, he still did that. If I had him, I would have started him just because volume, but I don't feel good about it. But he's obviously the workhorse over there on whatever that means for the Chicago's running back system. But to go back to Scotty, in my notes, I wrote drop and never look back. So I'm sorry you have to sit there with that 0 for a week.
Oh my God. I cannot wait till Tuesday now I got to wait till Wednesday to drop him. What the?
Yeah. As far as Ronald Jones goes, it was a very good game for him. Even though his stat line wasn't a blow up, it could have been a blow up, because if you watched it, he caught a touchdown pass and rolled over the end zone. But it was a weird play because they thought it wasn't a catch. It was challenged, and the refs had to call it down at the 2-yard line because they called the play dead. If it was a free play and it was called right, that was actually a touchdown. So it was even a better game than what he had. So it's the type of player that I wouldn't mind flexing, but I would not like it if it was my RB2, because you just don't know how it's going to be going forward. So it's a beautiful player to have on your bench. It's looking good for him over there in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I actually like David Montgomery. I was trying to trade for him a lot recently, but a couple of the guys I was trying to trade to, like, they didn't have any other running backs really, because a lot of people only have like 1 or 2 solid running backs on their roster. So it's hard to even you can't trade for a running back right now without giving one up. So it's kind of pointless unless it
someone
makes
likes
sense.
your guy better.
Exactly. Or you're trading for a handcuff or something like that. There's rare situations where the trade works out. But I honestly, with I forget his name, the guy who just tore his ACL and is out for the year, the backup on the Bears.
Cohen.
Tariq Cohen, he, with him out, honestly, that passing work for Montgomery is promising. Like, it makes me feel better because we know he can run. And it just depends on game script, and he's going to get the volume no matter what. You're not going to find, you can't name, 8 more guys that are going to get that much volume. So to me, that's what makes him valuable.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay is known for one of the best run defenses in the NFL. So I wasn't necessarily surprised. I think he had 2.9. Yeah, I think he ended up with 2.9 yards per carry, and he didn't get that. He only had 10. Yeah, 10 for 29. But, the promising thing is that even with an awful game where he only had 29 yards on the ground, he finished with 18 points. So, it's there. It's possible. We've always said it with Demont. He gets the volume. It's just, can he turn it into something? I'm more optimistic now with Foles than I was with Trubisky.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah. Just more offense opportunities and more goal line opportunities, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, so not much more to say. Like Allen Robinson, he's great. You're starting him.
Yeah.
Mike Evans, even when he doesn't have a great game, he gets you fantasy points because he's getting touchdowns. I said before the season started that Mike Evans was going to be Brady's Gronk, and that's basically what he is because he gets the touchdown, he gets the red zone targets. So
let me ask you on Evans though. You think he's a trade high candidate, even though he's not booming? I'm looking at all of his games: touchdown, touchdown, 2 touchdowns, touchdown, touchdown. I don't think he's going to score a touchdown every game.
Trade high, like it's like a Stephon Diggs, right? You would trade high on him right now. But Mike Evans, you can trade high still because his name value, he's playing with Brady on the Bucs, and it's not like he's putting up 3 or 4 points a game. Nobody's going to trade you much for him.
Solid every week.
He's getting you 15 every game. So yes, in that sense, you can sell high. And I would, for the right price, I would try to get a running back for him, like trade him and a lesser running back for a lesser wide receiver and a better running back. I would try to do something like that.
Do you think that his production is going to stay like this all year, though? Because the way I look at it is he has the name recognition. If you take away his touchdowns, they're mediocre games at best. So I would sell the fact that he's not going to continue to get all these touchdowns, especially with Godwin coming back. And I know people in leagues like the name Mike Evans. So would you trade him for Singletary straight up if it was a wide receiver for running back swap?
I wouldn't. I actually think Mike Evans is going to get better as the season goes along. I think we're going to see those huge blow-up games like from last year, but on a more consistent basis, to be honest, because I think they're just kind of getting in the groove of things. They haven't had their full offense healthy at all this season. So I think once they get Fournette back, Godwin back, I think that's going to be better for Evans, to be honest. So while I would still trade, I wouldn't see. I value Mike Evans more than Singletary right now. So to me, that's probably a downgrade unless you desperately need a running back. So I would try to trade Evans for a even like higher running back than that if I could.
Like Miles Sanders style. Yeah. So the problem with Evans, though, is, the one thing that I'm kind of leaning towards what Justin's saying is when I've seen Brady throw the deep ball, it hasn't been accurate. It's not even been a catchable ball. Like most of the time it's way out of bounds or way overthrown. It's just they're not connecting like Winston was with Evans and Godwin, where it was just money. And Winston throws a ton of interceptions. That was his downfall. But as far as a fantasy situation, Winston being in Tampa Bay was much better for Mike Evans and Godwin.
Oh yeah.
So, but to Jacob's point, if you watch this game, it's like Brady only has eyes for Evans on the goal line. It's the weirdest connection, but he just goes his way every time. So maybe he can
put up dude on the field, man.
It could be a 12 to 14 touchdown year with yardage.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens when Godwin comes back. That's the real testament.
Yeah, for sure. Let's jump into some league news and injury updates. And basically the biggest thing right now is all the COVID stuff going on. And with the Monday game now, a new Monday game, it's Patriots and who are they playing again?
Denver.
Is it Denver?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Patriots and Broncos. And then now we have the Tuesday game, the Bills and the Titans. So we all know that thing going on. We've been dealing with it in our own leagues and I think what we talked about in our leagues is the only thing you can really do. It's like, look, there's a possibility they do testing on Monday or Tuesday and there's more cases and they cancel the game. Basically, the Titans would have to forfeit the game. The Bills get a win, the Titans get a loss, and they just move forward. That's a possibility. I don't think that's going to happen. They already passed they already had full negative tests yesterday. The Titans did. So I think we're good. But the only way to go about it, in my opinion, is that you have your league managers tell you who their replacements would be for those players. Like I use the example, if you have Derrick Henry and you have, Duke Johnson Jr. on your bench and that's your best running back play, just say, hey, if Henry doesn't play, add Duke Johnson in retroactively and I get his points or whatever. It's going to get messy. People will still complain because what if that move makes somebody win? But I think it's the only fair way to do it. We've seen other suggestions where putting the highest scoring player off the bench in. I don't think that's a good option. And I don't think just oh, let's just play it out, and if those guys don't play, tough luck. I think that's completely unfair because look, I'm in a league where I have Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, and Jonnu Smith. What if that game gets canceled? I don't have the roster to drop 4 players and pick 4 guys up. I just can't do it, and it's not fair for me to lose that because of that. And also, I've heard people say, "Oh, that's fantasy football." No, this is not fantasy football. No. This is way different. It's not like
COVID.
It's not like somebody being injured, questionable on Monday night, and they're out. That's fantasy football. And if you don't want to drop somebody to pick another Monday player up, that's on you as a manager. But this is not fair to anybody.
Yeah, so, kind of my thought about it is, listen, if the game wasn't on Tuesday and let's say they said, hey, hell with it, we're playing it on Sunday, then it's okay, fine. Mm-hmm. Derrick Henry doesn't play, that's on you, man. You need to find somebody to replace him.
Oh, yeah, of course.
With the game being pushed to Tuesday, this is something we've never dealt with before, and like you said, it's possible. Yes, they did have a full round of negatives last week or yesterday, but it's always positive or possible that Tuesday, all of a sudden 2-3 guys pop up and they cancel the game. Well, we've never dealt with Tuesday night football. There is no replacements for Tuesday night football. Even Monday night, like you said, if a guy goes out, you go pick up his backup or you go take a deep flyer on some random guy. There's always going to be somebody available to put in your lineup. But in this situation, there's nobody. You have no options. So I adopted your rule for my league, and I'm even okay with Shane's, honestly. Hey, highest scoring player.
It's better than nothing. You can't say, oh, we'll just play it out like normal.
Yeah.
I have a better solution than all of that. I do like the state your replacement, but at the end of the day, if this game does not get played, I believe you should just appoint the what's the right word? The assumed points that they would get. So say Henry's listed at 15.94. I mean, there's nothing else you can do.
That's it's not so like random though.
But it's an average week, so it's like you losing 4 players, you don't get dogged on it. But who knows? You didn't get the 45 that Allen may throw. You don't get the 35 that Henry may run, but you get that 17 that we call that all the experts think of. There's no easy solution if that game gets canceled, but I think that would be a fair way if everyone can agree.
I don't hate it, but as a fantasy manager, I don't think that's even possible. I don't think we can input points. I think we actually have to physically put a player, and we can actually go and do that. As a commissioner, I believe that's how it works. Jacob, you may know.
Yeah, you can go. I already checked it out. So we play on Yahoo, and you can go back. I can go back to week 1 right now and put somebody else in your lineup spot, and it would change the matchup and the records and the point total and everything.
Yeah. So I'm not sure though that you can just type in.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
But still, that's random because Derrick Henry, he's had 7-point games and he's had 30-point games. So I get it. It's an average and it is what it is. But I like the idea of, hey, this guy's gonna miss the game and it's not your fault. But if he was to miss the game on a regular week, you'd have to put somebody else in. So that's what you have to do, So I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you would have done anyway.
Yeah.
And so my only advice, if you're in a league where your commissioner is not being flexible, or you're in a pro league like a ESPN or Yahoo Pro League where there is no commissioner, and ESPN or Yahoo's not going to go in and do that for you. My only suggestion is pick up Monday night players, because we're going to know most likely if that game is canceled, we're going to know by late Sunday or Monday, right? Yeah. So I did this in one of my Yahoo Pro leagues. I have Josh Allen. So what I did was I went and picked up Justin Herbert, right? Mm-hmm. So if I find out on Monday that the Bills game is canceled, I just throw in Justin Herbert in my lineup. I'm perfectly good. I think that's the only way to go about doing it. Or a late Sunday
solution. Yeah.
Or a late Sunday player. Because there are a lot of situations like that. Because in those pro leagues, I just have to figure it out in those pro leagues. Like there's nothing I can do.
And I don't think they're going to cancel it, like you said, Tuesday. We're going to know by Monday.
Oh, yeah. You'll know with time to make an adjustment.
Yeah.
but you might be in a situation where all your players on your bench are Sunday 10 a.m.
Yeah.
So that's where our solutions come into play, I think.
Yeah.
And in some of our leagues, like Justin Herbert's not available, so you don't have that option, or none of the quarterbacks that play on Monday are available.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just gonna rapid fire through some of these injuries, and you guys kind of tell me what you take away from some of them. I might not have everything. I did my best researching it, but basically we have Julio Jones, who's questionable, game time decision. Le'Veon Bell's practicing this week. He might be activated for Sunday. Raheem Mostert is questionable. Shanahan said it depends on how he feels Sunday. Zach Moss is questionable with a toe. He's likely to miss, which we could talk about what that means for Singletary. John Brown is likely to play. Mark Andrews is questionable, likely to play. Also Marquise Brown. Henry Ruggs is going to be back this week. Wondering is he the number one passing option outside of Darren Waller. AJ Brown is likely to make his return, which due to the COVID and this, I'm not waiting for AJ Brown. I might just bench him this week and see, but who knows? It depends on your options. Jared Cook is questionable. Michael Thomas might return this week. I don't think so. Joe Mixon is on the injury report with a shin injury. He was injured last week, and look what he did. He was injured. Alshon Jeffrey's out. Deshaun Jackson's out. Who is Carson Wentz going to throw to? And Sam Darnold is out. So what is the biggest fantasy implications for you guys out of those? Justin, I'll go to you first.
Real quick, did you mention Mostert?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Is he back or it's unclear yet?
So he's questionable. Shanahan said it depends how he feels on Sunday morning.
Game time, okay.
Yeah.
Biggest takeaway is MT's probably going to sit, so maybe you can use that flex on Traquan Smith. And then AJ Brown, I'm kind of in the same boat, but I've held for so long, I kind of want to play him just because.
It depends on your situation.
I want to use him if he's playing. And Julio missing time, I think after that poor performance, they're going to sit him, let him heal up, or see what they have and let Ridley go back to work. So I wouldn't bank on Julio this week.
Yeah.
Joe?
I'm actually going to differ from you guys, and I actually think Michael Thomas is going to play. He's missed, 3 weeks now, and that high ankle sprain is kind of, I think they had a timetable for him of 3 to 5 weeks. But this is Michael Thomas, man. He's going to play through an injury, so he may not be 100%, but I think he's going to be out there. Julio Jones, whether he plays or not, I'm not starting him. And that's typical Julio, man. He may be banged up, and he could come out and drop 30. But he also could do what he did last week and end up by halftime in the locker room. So I'm going to obviously, hopefully you have somebody to throw in there, even if it's Gage or something. I'd prefer to throw him in there. Mostert, I think he'll probably be back too, at least on a limited basis. I don't see him taking a full workload right off the bat, but I think between him and McKinnon, they're probably going to get some split work. And once the Niners jump ahead enough of Dolphins, McKinnon and Wilson will take over completely. But I'm throwing Mostert in the lineup if he plays, and I'm hoping he kind of gets one of those 70-yard touchdowns where he makes his whole week on one play.
Say you only can start one, Mostert and McKinnon. Who do you start?
If Mostert's playing, Mostert.
Yeah, if he's activated, it has to be Mostert.
Isn't it pretty clear that McKinnon's going to get all the pass catch work? So
Mostert catches balls, man. He look at his biggest plays this year. Both came off passes, right? Okay. So I think he's still solid. I mean, McKinnon does get a lot of pass down work, but even Jeff Wilson Jr. took some of that first week when he balled out too. So it's not like it's not like a Tariq Cohen, David Montgomery, where Tariq Cohen's in, he's catching the ball. Or even a better example is like Michelle and James White. It's not, Michelle's in, they're running the ball. James White's in, they're throwing. They do both with both guys. So that's kind of where I'm at.
We don't speak of Michelle anymore. He's done. It's the David Harris.
He's on IR right now as well.
We had to book it down on Michelle, man.
I thought that he was going to be, with Cam Newton there, he was going to be their lead runner, but guess not.
Yeah.
So Michael Thomas, I don't believe Michael Thomas is coming back until we see that update that says Michael Thomas is 100% good to go this week. Until we get that, I don't believe he's going to play, but you'll know well ahead of time whether he's going to play or not. Julio, like you said, Joe, if I'm a fantasy manager of Julio, I hope he doesn't play because at least you know. And guys, I'm realizing this year, and I've done it in previous years, but handcuffing wide receivers is the thing. Honestly,
Yeah.
I really think it is. It depends on the player, right? On the team, actually.
Yeah.
Like if you, I don't know, let's just say, like if you have, there's some wide receivers who you don't need to handcuff their backup or the second guy, right? But if you have Julio and you want to have Gage. Because if you throw Gage in there, now he's the number 2 option on that team, and you feel really good about that. Or if you have Michael Thomas, you maybe want to have one of those other guys in case Michael Thomas doesn't play. So, and for me, that's why I have Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller in the league, in our league, Joe, your league, Joe, is because Will Fuller is injury prone. I think for those injury prone guys, it's great to handcuff their backup.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like you said, it's the team. If Allen Robinson goes out, I don't give a damn to start Anthony Miller.
That's a great example. Yeah.
But, in other situations, even like I said, that's with Scotty Miller. If Evans and Godwin go out, man, Scotty Miller, I think he's got some little Edelman in him or something,
I'm done, bro. I'm sorry. And you know what? You know what's going to happen. He's going to go off next week. But I don't care. Like, I'm done.
I'm done with it. Yeah. Fair enough.
Okay, so if you guys have these players or just missing players in general, who would you say? Let's go over some replacement options. Whether these are players that are on the waiver wire or sitting on people's benches. Let's go to you, Joe, first. Like, who do you think are some solid replacements if your guys are sitting?
So, I mean, I lost Eckler last week, and you know what? I actually think Josh Kelly, I know I've read around the block that they don't love him this week, that he's fumbled twice and he's a rookie and Jackson's back. And I get all of that concern, man, but you don't give a rookie 23 carries in the second game of the season if you don't believe in the guy. So part of me thinks, yes, Jackson will be involved, and you may even be able to start him also. But I am starting Kelly this week. Another one, which is kind of a little deeper, is Devontae Freeman. I think he did pretty good last week. And if I recall,
it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, I think he ended up with like 11 points. And listen, my expectations for Devontae Freeman in that New York Giants backfield was very low. So I think going against the Cowboys, who have had an awful defense, they talk about it. I think he could get some pass game work even in that game. And if he does, he may be decent in a week where you have to have some. Listen, I started Jeff Wilson Jr. in my RB2 slot last week. If you're in that position, you could do worse. That's kind of where I'm at. Ayuk, Debo, if they both play, man, I think they both could have some potential. And that's kind of a couple running backs, a couple wide receivers I like.
Definitely. Justin, what about you, man? You have some replacements if you have some injured players?
Yeah, for sure. Like, if you know me and the way I play fantasy, I'm a pretty conservative guy. I like to take the high floor rather than the potential for boom. But with all the COVID injuries and late games, I kind of want to go for that. Hey, it's 0 or 25 points. So my two pickups would be Slayton or McCole Hardman. Those would be probably on your waiver wire. People aren't hot on them. They may be deep on your bench. But, hey, if I lose some top wide receiver, then, hey, let's hope McCole gets a 90-yarder. You know what I mean? But I also like Damian Harris and Justin Jackson. Joey mentioned Jackson. I just like the Damian Harris workload, and I like the potential Jackson has. But if you're in a not too deep league, Laviska Shenault, he's been really consistent. He's been probably the bottom end talked about rookie wide receivers, but he's been real solid. So hopefully some of these guys, and I guess Tim Patrick. I do trust Tim Patrick. I just picked him up, so I'm kind of biased. But he's been having a couple good weeks, so I'm sure he could be on your waiver wire most likely.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned him last week, and I wasn't too as high on him as you were.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Crazy.
Drew Lock is practicing this week, so that's good for everybody on that that team.
Yeah, I like the Laviska mention because I was telling Justin when he made that trade with to move Demont and he got Laviska in the back end, and I said, dude, that guy's been solid and he's 4 weeks into his rookie season, man. And Minshew's throwing all the knocks on Jacksonville. They're not a great team. I get it. Gardner Minshew is balling, dude. He's had one bad game, but aside from that, he's been like top 10 every week. And
I like
he's doing
Minshew.
that. And he's been doing that without Shark. And I get it. Shark comes back last week, he kills it, but Laviska still has 15. So if you're in that situation where you need to throw somebody in there, I was telling Justin, I was actually looking at picking him up in one of our leagues, and somebody else came and swooped him up and has him on the bench. I was going to start him.
I'm in an interesting predicament. So here's another good toss-up. If you were me, I don't want your opinions, but let's ask it: Laviskis or McKinnon? I kind of want to start.
Well, this is like our fresh flex picks, basically.
Okay, we'll get to it.
But I mean, we can answer that because that might not come up in that segment. That is tough. Who's Jacksonville playing again?
They're
going against Houston, so it's not that difficult of a matchup.
That is tough. Okay, so obviously, if McKinnon is the starter, you start McKinnon. Yeah. But if Mostert's back, I would go Laviska.
Really, even though it's against Miami.
The thing is, I think Mostert might get more work in this game because the Niners are probably going to be up early. Or they might throw Jeff Wilson Jr. in there and run the clock out. I mean, that's very possible as well.
Well, look at Kittle, man. He came back, and what did he do? He was thrown right in the mix. There was no settle in. So I think the same could be said for Mostert, man. I don't think that Shanahan is a super he is conservative, but he's either like, dude, you're either not playing or you're gonna play. Like, it's not like Tampa Bay where they announce Fournette is active right before the game, and it's just to throw everybody off, and he doesn't get a single.
Bro, Shanahan is so straightforward. I love it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're playing, you're gonna play. I have yet even Debo. There was talks that his role was going to be reduced. He had 3 catches in 7.5 points in the first game, in a game that we relied heavily on Kittle. So I trust him, dude. If Mostert's playing, he's gonna play.
Well, look, with McKinnon, I don't care if Mostert's in or not. I like McKinnon as a flex play. He's finished top 25 in running backs every week so far, with Mostert or without Mostert.
And without Mostert, he's been like top 10 a lot of those weeks.
He has his own role. This is what Kyle Shanahan always envisioned. And look, McKinnon when they signed McKinnon, he was never going to be the workhorse back.
No.
Shanahan was always going to work in other guys. Look at when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl. Were they only using Devontae Freeman? No, they were using Tevin Coleman a lot. They were both. Tevin Coleman was a great flex option that year. Remember, he was killing it when he was in.
He did better than Freeman, and I think that's what we're going to see moving forward too. I agree with you.
So I hope McKinnon stays healthy. It's really exciting as a Niners fan and for fantasy purposes as well. Yeah. Joe snatched him up, or a lot of people have snatched him up in all these other leagues, but I have him in one league, so I'm excited about that. Well, just real quick, my replacements. I had Justin Jackson on my list because I actually think Justin Jackson is going to get all the passing work, which is probably better for that team, and then Josh Kelly's going to get all the groundwork. I also had McCole Hardman. I think as far as a player where I didn't care about or wasn't a fan about at all, and now I'm super high on, the biggest jump for me is McCole Hardman. I haven't really talked about this with either of you yet, but I've been watching like every Chiefs game. I mean, who doesn't watch the Chiefs games? They're, some of the most exciting games to watch, but I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Patrick Mahomes in the league, so I watch every down of their games, and I'm like, man, McCole Hardman looks great. He's very boomer bust, right? But he's like another Tyreek Hill. Yeah. And I think I wish I had him in our Dynasty league. I think going forward, he's going to be playing with Mahomes for the next 10 years. Like, I think McCole Hardman will eventually just be a high-end wide receiver too. Not this year, maybe not even next year, but eventually playing in that offense. I love McCole Hardman. He's definitely a flex consideration if you have no better options.
Yeah. Well, if you remember, just touching on McCole a little bit more, when they drafted him, it looked like Tyreek Hill was about to be suspended and maybe even banned from the NFL after what happened last year.
Yeah.
He was drafted second round, 56th pick. That's pretty high for like a wide receiver. When we talk about these guys, around a little bit after I think where Debo went. And so there's no reason to think that he's not going to have a role at some point. And they play him pretty interestingly, man.
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot of times they'll do little end arounds, little sweeps. They'll get him the ball quick in, a little screen and let him work. And that's what he does. So Tyreek is definitely still the long ball guy. But they're finding more ways to mix Mecole in. So I think by the end of this year, he may even be a solid flex play weekly.
Yeah, for sure. And one more replacement. I see a lot of fantasy managers struggling to fill their running back slots.
Mm-hmm.
Either they have some random guy at the number 2 spot, or even if their flexes are always wide receivers. And, it's running backs are always a little bit safer. They're more consistent with their work. If they're going to get work touches, they're more consistent. So for me, I like Chase Edmonds, especially this week. They're playing the Jets. And I think, while I still think Drake is the guy to have on your roster right now, that situation worries me. I've told you from the beginning of the season, Joe, I didn't love the situation. And I just see Chase Edmonds getting more and more involved. And I think that, and Justin and I talked about this on the earlier podcast this week, that if the Cardinals are up, they're up by a couple scores and they just need to run the clock out, they might just let Edmonds do it, or they might let Drake do it. Drake's the type of guy who's going to be like, no, keep me in the game, So It just depends on the situation. But Justin made a good point. He's like, if they're up, he hopes Drake's the reason they're up. He has some rushing yards, some catches, and a touchdown, and then they just let Edmonds run. So I think Drake is definitely an RB2 option, and I think Edmonds is maybe a flex option, to be honest, if you really need it.
I saw something about how Edmonds and Drake are separated by 0.2 points this year. If you're in if you're in a typical PPR, and that's with Drake getting 75% of the work. So
there's something to take away from that, because a lot has changed since we last spoke, because they may be separated and Drake is getting a lot more work, but he's basically getting zero passing work. And if you look at what the Cardinals came out and said this past week, is we got to do a better job. We have to get him involved in the passing game. So I do like Edmonds as one of the top handcuffs of the league, because he's proven to do well. But if Drake can't get it done this week, I don't know what. So I hope it's another mix-in situation where, even though they're balling out, just let them continue, and have that great, confident game. So it'll be an interesting watch for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to give some insight and why I'm probably talking so high on him, I picked Chase Edmonds up in a keeper league where I'm 0-4 and I'm likely tanking. I'm still going to try to win every week, but I'm likely tanking. And Drake signed a transition deal. I don't know what it's called,
but gone out for this year. Yeah,
he signed a transition deal for $8 million, and he's only signed for this year. So if he's 26, which, running back years are different. Edmonds is 24, Drake is 26. Why would they overpay Drake? And if they have a guy like Edmonds, so going into next year, if Edmonds is the starting running back on their team, he's definitely a keeper, and it's a 6-keeper league. So I'm going to hold on to him until next year. So
I agree with that.
How that goes.
I remember talking to some Arizona fans, and they had mentioned that they didn't even think they were going to be able to keep Drake this year. From last year, after they got Hopkins and stuff, they were like, dude, his contract, that might be one that needs to go, with Edmonds there already. So I think next year he's gone for sure. I'm with you there.
Good points.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's rapid fire these flex picks. I kind of just came up with some different scenarios looking around in leagues. So so this is your last flex spot. You got to decide who to start, and this is in full PPR. Whenever we're talking full PPR. That's just because that's the leagues that we play in. So Devontae Freeman or Jarvis Landry? Landry has a tough matchup this week. They're playing the Ravens, I believe.
Yeah.
So, is that's
correct? Ugly, man. They're
playing the Colts. They're playing the Colts.
Tougher. That's a tougher matchup.
I know.
The Ravens. Yeah. God, man, that's ugly.
Freeman's playing Atlanta, right?
No,
they're playing the Cowboys. I got these all mixed up, but I'm picking bad defense, good defense.
Listen, man, I think that if you want the boomer bust, you go Jarvis Landry, because I could see him easily having another 20-point game. That's just what he does, whether it's throwing a touchdown to Odell or catching one, so I can see it. If you want just a safe game, I do think Devontae Freeman, like I mentioned him earlier, he's going to be a safe 10, 12 points, I think, against the Cowboys. So it depends what you want.
The good thing is that Freeman can catch balls. So even if they're behind, I think you're muted, Joe.
Yeah, I am.
Even if they're behind, that he's still going to be in the game. Freeman. Yeah. Okay. So this one, and this isn't crazy to me, depending on your roster, DJ Moore or Joshua Kelly?
I gotta go DJ Moore.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kelly. And
it's tough because you usually want to go the starting running back, right? And he's a starting running back. Moore has been disappointing, for lack of a better way of explaining it. But the Panthers are playing the Falcons, so that's likely going to be a shootout. So it's tough. Oh, by the way, I go Devontae Freeman on the first one. I'm going to lean slightly DJ Moore on this one.
Well, Jacob, I said this to Justin yesterday. I read it randomly. Do you know who Robbie Anderson's college coach was? The new coach of the Panthers.
Oh, yeah. No, I did know that. Yeah,
I didn't know that. Crazy. So it makes a lot of sense why Robbie Anderson is killing it, and DJ Moore kind of took a back seat.
Also, it's a different quarterback, and
that too.
And not to bring, you reminded me of something else, that Ron Rivera was the coach of the Panthers, and Kyle Allen was the quarterback. Oh, yeah. And Ron Rivera is the coach of the Washington football team, and now Kyle Allen's the starter. And CMC was the running back last year, and they have Gibson, who they were comparing to CMC, and they have Terry McLaurin, who
DJ Moore.
Yeah, but maybe even better. Not better, but different, and meaning he's probably going to make more dynamic plays after the catch.
Yeah, so, the Washington Redskins offense took a huge boom for me this
week. The thing is, for me, I wasn't as excited until I realized, wait a minute, Ron Rivera was his coach last year. That's exactly why he brought Kyle Allen over, because they probably have a good relationship. And look, I don't think he's as bad as he looked last year. I think he's decent,
All we know is he's definitely better than Haskins, so.
And I mean, either way, it's for fantasy purposes. Gibson and McLaurin, man, they got a huge bump. Okay,
and Gibson was already trending up.
I was trying to buy Terry, but no one sells that man at all.
Oh yeah. All right. Brandon Ayuk or Darrell Henderson?
Ayuk with Jimmy G back. Ayuk.
Yeah, I'm going Ayuk as well.
It's tough because you have Kittle, you have Debo back, but also Akers is back, so you have that crap show and with the Rams situation. All right. So this is
any of those Rams.
This is a three-way one. So this is Sammy Watkins. Oh, by the way, I'd go Ayuk as well. Sammy Watkins, Brandon Cooks, or T.Y. Hilton. Three not great options.
Wow.
That's all bad, man.
I got to go Sammy Watkins.
If you had to
touchdown upside. I trust him to find the end zone more than those guys.
Hey, look, Watkins has gotten a lot of volume this year so far.
Yeah. Other than game 2, it's not been bad.
He hasn't been terrible. I would go Watkins, but I have a feeling T.Y. might break out this game, to be honest.
I said that 2 weeks ago, and
I don't think a 31-year-old bad offense passing team can break out. I think he's done.
Man, I mean, Justin and I did our dark horses earlier this week, but I might want to change mine to T.Y. Hilton, to be honest.
Dude, Brandon Cooks has been okay, but I think he's been banged up. They talked about how his hammy wasn't right, even though he was playing through it. Sammy Watkins, that's your pick right there for me.
Yeah, I would go Watkins just because I don't trust Cooks right now, and I'm not. T.Y. Hilton is he's very, very risky. Okay, so some of these people might be like, these are my starters. Why are they in your flex? But you got to remember, a lot of people play in one flex leagues. And the Yahoo Pro leagues that I'm in, a couple of those, they're one flex leagues. So I was looking at people's rosters, and these are situations that either me or people in my leagues were facing. So Antonio Gibson or Justin Jefferson?
Gibson.
I know it's easy to say running back right away, but
I'm going Jefferson.
the Vikings are playing Seattle, who's given up some of the highest points to wide receivers this year. But you still go Gibson, Joe, right?
Yeah, I think that Rams game is I'm just excited with Kyle Allen, man. I don't know. Call it hype, call it whatever you want. And I think Gibson and McLaurin are both going to have a good game. I actually think the Washington Redskins are going to win that game.
Look,
the Washington football team.
I would try to find a way to get both of these guys in my lineup. If it's not possible, like I saw the reason I asked, because the team I was looking at, they had like Amari Cooper and somebody else, so they didn't need Jefferson really, and then their flexes, they already had two solid running backs as well, so it was a decision they had to make. Okay,
who are you going with that one?
I'm gonna that's the toughest one to me, because the thing is, it's the matchup with the Vikings. Like, I think Seattle's obviously going to be up most of that game, and they're going to be throwing it to the receivers. I'm going to lean towards Gibson just because the running back premium, like the running back upside.
I actually think that's going to be a closer game than you think, Jacob. I think so.
If that's a decision you have to make, then I think you're in a good situation. But
if you're deciding between a starting running back and a second receiver option, that means Jefferson's the high upside guy.
Yeah.
25 yards a catch, basically. He's doing good.
This one was probably, maybe it's not a question, but Gaskin or McKinnon, and this is with Mostert in. So if Mostert's in, Myles Gaskin or Jerick McKinnon?
I'm going McKinnon.
I'm going McKinnon too. Not that I don't like Gaskin, but McKinnon has higher upside with
and the Dolphins are playing the 49ers.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys one now that you mentioned Jerick McKinnon. And this is something that I'm deciding between in our league, beer drinkers, is McKinnon or Kelly. Obviously, if Mostert is out, I'm going with McKinnon.
Yeah.
But if Mostert is
Mostert's back, I'm going Kelly.
Yeah, that's where I've been leaning all week.
I'm going McKinnon, just safer player for me.
Yeah, it definitely is the safer one, but you don't know how Kelly's going to do as the starters. It's kind of risky. It might be smart to wait a week, so I don't know. We'll see. I would go McKinnon just because Gaskin's playing the 49ers. If Gaskin had a better matchup, I might go Gaskin on that one.
And by the way, I also have Justin Jackson in that league, if that changes your guys' opinion at all. With starting him.
I think for now you go Kelly over Jackson.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, one last one. Jerry Jeudy or Marquise Brown?
Jerry.
Marquise.
Jerry.
I like that. Like, none of these are like straight up. All of us are choosing the same answer no matter what.
I got a couple on the back end when we're done too that I like to hear your opinions.
Listen, I heard something actually good about Hollywood, which was that he's actually last year the concern was targets, and this year he's gotten at least 6 targets every single game, and he actually did pretty good last week. But the reason I say Jerry Jeudy is that guy is climbing, man. Every week he's doing good, and if they get Drew Lock back, I like it. No Noah Fant, I think he's definitely going to be out. No Sutton, obviously. I don't know if Phillip Lindsay's going to be 100% back yet. So you're looking at Melvin Gordon and Jerry Jeudy are the 2 number 1 guys for sure.
I think people are too high on Jeudy. Last week, if he doesn't get that random touchdown, he has a really bad game. So not that he's bad, but nah.
That touchdown, though, that was Randy Moss-esque, man.
He went over there under his helmet.
He stole it. An average receiver does not make that catch. Even if it's off his helmet, whatever, that's tough, dude. When the ball's being thrown and it hits the guy's helmet, it bounces. You have to be a good football player to go and grab that. Jerry Jeudy.
I'll tell you this. If Drew Lock is back, Jerry Jeudy all day. If Drew Lock is not back, I'm going Marquise Brown. But you guys know Lamar Jackson has been in the bottom 5 of passing in this year in quarterbacks, like just overall.
It's not been pretty.
Yeah. Even Mark Andrews has been a bust. That whole offense, I mean, aside from
50-50.
Yeah, but he had a good week last week, and it was like 3 catches and 2 touchdowns. Like, I don't like that,
Last year, they went from like Mark Ingram, solid running back, to Mark Brown was doing pretty good. Mark Andrews was a top 3 tight end.
Lamar Jackson was the number 1 quarterback.
About that, what if Lamar was? I don't know. It's crazy to say if he was a bust. I don't think he's gonna be.
Is he on Madden 2021?
He might be a bust.
It's the Madden curse, man. It's the Madden curse.
He might be a bust as to where you drafted him, but you're still kind of wanting him as your.
Oh yeah, because the rushing upside's never gonna go away.
He's not the same passer, but let me throw you a couple real quick that are interesting to me. Similar players we talked about. I'll start with the easier one for me. DJ Moore or Marquise Brown. I think I know where you're leaning now, but what would you go?
I'd go DJ Moore.
I know Joe's down on Moore.
I'm not as low on DJ Moore as most people are, to be honest.
I am the same.
Especially in this matchup.
I'm going DJ myself.
Listen, it's tough. I think if you want the boom pick, you go Hollywood. If you want to guarantee yourself 9-10 points, you go DJ Moore. So, and DJ Moore has a potential for a lot more. So that's not to say that he can't. But DJ Moore is one of those guys that even last year when he was having really good games, a really good game was like 20 points because he would get 8 catches and 100 yards or 80 yards and a touchdown. He was never really a 30, 40-point guy. Hollywood Brown has that potential to blow up with 2 big catches, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So it's up to you. I guess DJ Moore.
All right. Now we spoke Myles Gaskin. Now Myles or Damian Harris?
Man, who are the Patriots? Oh, they're playing the Broncos. Man, I don't trust Patriots running backs. But he did look good last week. Man.
Okay. He had a nice run.
So I heard they're saying there's a chance Cam Newton plays this week. I don't think he's going to.
Yeah.
But if Cam Newton plays, I think that actually hurts Damian Harris.
Yeah.
Because they trust Cam to throw. Cam's going to run more. He's going to get goal line work. They don't trust where to throw, so they're going to give it to Damian Harris to run.
I'm with you.
If Cam is out, I go Damian Harris. But if Cam's in, you said Gaskin, right?
Yeah.
I go, but he's playing the Niners.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. That's a really hard one. I'll go Gaskin because I know he's the guy there. I'll go Gaskin if Cam's out.
I got to go Gaskin too, even though I like Harris.
Does Cam being in or out change your Justin?
To be honest, no. I feel like we saw Cam Newton get all the goal line work. I don't think that's going to be consistent. I really do think, hey, we're going to run an option, try to get in with you or sneak it. But then, hey, if we're on the goal line, Damian, get that rookie touchdown. So I do think Gaskin has no goal line upside, which it sucks for me. But Harris, I can actually see getting that 2-yard run in. Yeah. But it's really even for me on this one. But Cam in or out, I like it more out, but it doesn't change it that much for me.
I think I'd probably go Gaskin, guys, and the reason is because even though they're playing the Niners, they're not going to be able to run. I don't see a lot of goal line work, but what I do see is probably a lot of pressure.
Catch passes, though, so
that's the thing. I think that he's going to save his day, similar to how Demont did, but not as good. So he may have 7 catches for 28 yards, and that may be 10 points right there. And if he gets 25, 30 yards on the ground, he has 13 points,
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
All right, last one. It's a big one, but just think this week, and I'll even throw it up to the rest of the season. We all know Justin Jefferson is the best rookie wide receiver. That's not a question. So I'm asking you, Ayuk, Shenault, Higgins, or Judy? You pick one.
For the rest of the season?
For this week and rest of the season, if you want to double on the answer.
First of all, CeeDee Lamb is the best rookie wide receiver right now.
I didn't want to include him.
I know. You know what's funny? People are forgetting. I heard other podcasts do that. They're talking about rookie wide receivers, and they forget to mention CeeDee Lamb. I think it's because he's so good that they just forget that he's a rookie.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said Higgins. Can you name him again?
Ayuk, Shenault, Higgins, or Judy. We haven't seen much from Ruggs, so I'm not going to throw him in there.
Okay, I go Judy rest of the season.
Yeah, me too.
To be honest, because I think if Drew Lock comes back, he's their number one option in the passing game. I know other guys are getting work, but he's their most dynamic receiver. So I go Judy rest of season, but let me look up these matchups. So the Bengals are playing the Ravens. They're playing the Patriots. That's tough as well.
Yeah, but Stephon Gilmore's out.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
He's got COVID, so he's going to be out.
Ooh, the Jaguars are playing the Texans. Man, I might go Chenault for this week. Chenault for this week, Judy rest of season.
Yeah. I'm going to go Ayuk for this week.
My runner-up was Ayuk this week.
Yeah. I'm going to go Ayuk for this week. Dude, did you guys see – I don't know if you guys talked about it last Sunday. Did you guys see Ayuk's catch and touchdown?
Of course.
Yeah, the big old leap.
I was driving from LA to Sacramento, and I didn't get to watch the game, not even a minute of it, but I'm listening on the radio. And as soon as that play happened, I'm like, Dave, pull up your phone, get Twitter up, type Ayuk.
You had to see it, right?
I was so hyped, man. I was on the home stretch driving home. I was like,
bro,
oh my God.
After that, they showed a Sierra College practice where he did that in practice, jumped over a guy in practice.
If you think he was going to do it in the NFL, that dude, physical specimen. Dude, I love Deebo Samuel, but I've been so impressed with Ayuk these last 2 weeks that I think he could end up being our number one receiver long term.
They're both going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm just happy we're talking about some nice young receivers that are going to be great for many years.
I'll go Judy long term the rest of the season, and I go Ayuk this week.
I'm actually all over the place compared to you guys. This week I go Laviscus. They play against the Texans. I don't like them at all. And rest of the season I got to go Higgins. He's good. He's big. He's a monster over there. And AJ Green's out of the picture, so Higgins rest of the season for me.
Yeah, but what about Tyler Boyd? And what about Mixon?
There's room for two.
I like
AJ Green popped up on the injury report again.
I mean, we're not talking. These guys none of them are going to end wide receiver ones. Not even.
No, I like Higgins a lot, man. I think Higgins is the number 2 there, wide receiver wise, going forward.
Yeah,
but he's different from Boyd gets his, and Higgins.
Higgins is huge, man. I
want that AJ Green trade. I want somebody. Maybe the Patriots to step up and trade for AJ Green, so that way we have a clear cut.
Or the Eagles.
They may get a 7th round for him.
Dude, but the Eagles don't want another injured wide receiver.
Yeah, another injury-prone guy. Yeah, they need.
The Patriots
the Eagles should trade for John Ross, a guy who they've been healthy scratch. John Ross should be on an NFL roster when there's teams that don't even have a healthy wide receiver.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I like your guys' thoughts on that.
The Bengals are stacked at wide receiver. They have too many guys. They're healthy scratching a fifth overall pick in John Ross. Okay, so Joe, did you have any flex questions?
No, I think that was all I was deciding about. There was one other league where I was deciding between Cup and Lamb.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I mean my running backs are not.
Those are people's starters.
Yeah,
but I mean it depends on your roster because I've seen teams where they just been really lucky on the waiver wire, guys who drafted Gibson late and then they picked up Gaskin and they're both on their bench and I'm like, oh my goodness, so these situations come up. So the Rams are playing Washington, and you said Cup and Lamb.
And Lamb is playing against the Giants. So
man, it's so tough because on any given week, Kupp is the number 1 receiver in LA, but it rotates between him and Woods, right? And CeeDee's obviously clearly behind Amari Cooper. Yeah. But Dak is throwing so much.
Yeah.
Who are the Cowboys playing? Oh my goodness.
They may stomp early and it might.
You know what?
I'm worried about.
I'm gonna go with Cooper Kupp because I think this is the Ezekiel Elliott come out party of the season, and then I think Washington is gonna play LA a lot harder than people think, just like the Giants did last week, and they're gonna need Cooper Kupp.
No, Washington's a good team. They have a good defense. The only thing holding them back is Haskins. Man. Yeah,
they should be better.
Haskins was holding that team back, Jacob, and I told you a little while back. I said, "But
you wanted Alex Smith, though."
said coming into the year, I said, damn, if Alex Smith
But hey, Alex Smith is number 2 on the depth chart now, though.
he's ahead of Haskins.
Yeah.
Haskins is gone.
Haskins he's gonna get Rosen. He's gonna get traded, and he's gone. You don't bench a rookie and then bring him back into the fold.
That's crazy. They were banking on him being their franchise guy. That's insane.
They brought out a lot of news saying his work ethic is garbage. He brags for his stat line like he's doing some heroic numbers.
Really?
Yeah, it was all bad news. He will never play in that jersey again.
Yeah, well, the writing was kind of on the wall because if you guys remember when new management came in for Arizona, they had just drafted Josh Rosen, and his rookie season wasn't great, but it wasn't awful. But it wasn't even a debate on, are we going to keep this guy? Everyone knew Kyler Murray was going to get drafted. That was his coach, and that same thing happened in Washington where they changed all their management, their head coach. The whole organization turned over this year, and Haskins was never their guy. And that's just the reality of football is one guy may
When
see
did they draft him again?
last year.
I know, but it wasn't like a top 10 pick, right?
No, it was 15th or 16th pick. He was actually supposed to be ahead of some other guys. Like Daniel Jones was a reach at the
you
draft.
said it was 10th overall?
No, 15th.
No.
Oh, 15th. Yeah. Man, that hurts. Imagine who they could have got, a defensive player or something. I mean, they have Chase Young, who's really
amazing.
Good. Yeah, really, really good. Okay, so real quick, one thing that I want to touch on this show, and we'll have more time in future weeks on this stuff, is like I want to talk about like fantasy, like etiquette, and just things about leagues that people should do or act. And also, I want to talk about dynasty leagues and Superflex leagues. I'm not going to spend too much time on either of these things right now because we're already at an hour. But one thing I wanted to mention is like my fantasy etiquette of the week was, first of all, don't be nasty to your other league members. Like, don't be like hateful. Like, it's all a fun and games. And also paired with that is don't take it personal, bro. Meaning like, this is a crap talking game. It's majority played by dudes, and like people take stuff so personally and get mad. And look, fantasy brings out the worst in us. Like I feel like when I'm talking to Joe, it's like totally different than when like I talk to him about other stuff. Like it's like but our fantasy versions of ourselves are different than our real life versions. So like, just for people out there, like, just don't take things personal. Like when people talk crap, it's all fun and games.
That's so true, man. Because I talk more shit about fantasy than anybody, and I genuinely feel like there are some people that genuinely don't like me because of the way I talk in fantasy. And I'm like, dude, I don't care if you want to take it personally, and because I made a good trade or whatever and it panned out, and now you're upset about it. Fine, but like you said, I always tell people, dude, don't be so sensitive. I'm going to talk shit about your trade if I think that guy kills you, and so what? You like that guy, but don't take it so sensitively. Just man up and talk some shit back and let's move on.
The worst part about that is if, say you made a trade that's very uneven and a couple players didn't like it, they're going to avoid trading with you, even if it benefits their team. And all that does is hurt you in the long run. So by not taking it personal, you let that go and you can continue to make your team better. So for sure, that's
to that point, it's like people won't trade. Like they'll only trade with certain league members. And that could be another fantasy etiquette of the week. Maybe each of us each week will bring one to the table. But Joe, maybe you can make one about trades. But I think a good one would be like, don't be so shut off to making trades. Like be more open about it. And we'll talk more in depth about that another episode. But for me, I just want to say, don't take crap talking personal. Like that's all I got to say. And a lot of times you end up in leagues with people you don't know initially. And then your introduction to them is through fantasy football, and you just like don't like them because you don't like the way they operate in the fantasy leagues. And it's like, that's not fair. Like, don't judge a person based on only knowing them through a fantasy league is basically point. All right, so Joe and I play in a dynasty league. We play in a couple keeper leagues real quick. One thing I wanted to mention was if you have like veterans on your bench who you're never starting and it's a full dynasty league, drop those guys pick up young guys. Like, for example, I dropped AJ Green because he's not doing anything. What's the point? I'm never going to start him. What's the point of me holding on to him when I could pick up a guy like Chase Claypool and hold on to him? I think it's going to be a beast in a couple of years. So unless it's somebody that you're utilizing every week, like, don't hold on to those guys. In my opinion, like, just cut them and pick up some youthful guys who could be a RB1 next year or a wide receiver 2 next year, something like that. Joe, do you have any advice for dynasty leagues?
I like that advice, man. You've seen what I've done. I took over a team that was all vets, and in 1 year, my whole team is young, man. I got Debo, Ayuk, Judy, Sanders. I got, CH. My oldest guy is, like, aside from quarterbacks, is probably like Kamara. You know what I mean? And my team is really good. It's not a bad team at all, and I got a lot of talent on that team. I mean, I have Hopkins, Thomas, so I turned that team around. So I would say, if you're in a dynasty league and you're not good, don't be afraid to trade. Take Saquon Barkley and turn him into 2 or 3 good pieces, because what the hell's the point of holding on to Saquon Barkley when you're going to lose every single game and you don't have anybody to start aside from that, So don't be afraid, man. Trade your studs in those dynasty leagues for 2 or 3 really good guys because you don't know who's going to blow up next year.
We've seen that work out for players. I mean, DeMont on the podcast, he traded Barkley for Singletary, David Montgomery, and James Conner. And at the time, you didn't like it because Saquon was healthy, and I didn't like it because Saquon was healthy. But it actually worked out really well because all 3 of those guys look really good right now.
Yeah, they are. Healthy. It was a decent trade.
Yeah, for sure. Justin, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you guys put me on the dynasty tips, so I try to think about it when I make transactions just on that level so I can be ready for it. But one thing that I really like to do, and I think it works even better in dynasty, but it may be more difficult, is when you make these trades, expand them into a larger trade and sneak in a couple of those low-end players that you like, that have high upside, that don't mean much. Like, for example, that trade I did to get Kamara, I gave David Johnson, Devontae Adams, and Justin Jefferson. And if that was a dynasty league, I would be most sad that I got rid of Justin Jefferson, even though he's not the highlighted player.
Yeah, I mean, you probably would have avoided putting Jefferson in the trade if it was dynasty, or maybe you don't even do that trade if it's dynasty.
Yeah, that's my point. But when these people see names like Kamara, like Saquon, you may take that step down, but you're setting up yourself for better success throughout the year. So if you can avoid the one-on-ones, try to make it 3 for 3 and get those players that you actually like, that are like the hidden gems of the trade.
Yeah, especially for dynasty, that's a great point.
For sure. And so our dynasty league is also a Superflex league. I don't have anything major for Superflex league right now, but maybe in the future I'll have some more tips on that. But for me, just in general, if you're playing in a Superflex league, check out Ryan Fitzpatrick if you need a guy for your second quarterback this week. Dude's been solid last 3 weeks, over 25 fantasy points in a 4-point TD league. Yeah. Like, he's a solid play, especially in a second quarterback league. And I heard something crazy. I don't know the exact stat, but he's like, through some certain point of last year up until now, he's been a top 10 quarterback. So regular or Superflex.
It was funny, man, when we were making our rankings for the season, I was like thinking about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I was like, man, he's top 15. And I genuinely was. My problem, and the reason that I had him towards the end, was not that when he plays, he's going to be top 15. But the problem is, at some point, they're going to bench him for Tua. We all know it. But if you have him, throw him in as a bye-week flex or a bye-week fill-in, or in a Superflex league. I would start him over Carson Wentz and Stafford and some of these other guys all day.
Oh, yeah. If I had him right now, he would probably be in my second slot. Like, I have Joe Burrow. But Joe Burrow has a bad matchup this week, right? And I have Jimmy Garoppolo. I love Jimmy, but like, he's not a great. Like, I like having him for bye weeks and stuff. And who knows? What if he tweaks his ankle again during the game? Like, that kind of scares me. So I would love to have Fitzpatrick if I could, but he's not available in that league, obviously. Like, and also quarterbacks, like, I've seen Superflex leagues where like there's a ton of quarterbacks still left on the waiver. Like, roster like 4 quarterbacks at least. It depends on your roster size, but They should be bigger rosters anyways, but roster like 4 quarterbacks at least, I would say.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode. We were planning on doing game previews, but I feel like we touched on so many games, like through the flex questions, which I actually like that. So this seems like a pretty good format. Maybe we'll tweak it a little bit, but that's going to do it, guys. Thank you for joining us on this Fantasy Strategy on Saturday podcast. That was a lot of fun. The first round fantasy second podcast of the week for Justin, for Joseph, and Jacob. Thank you. And we don't know what our plan is for if we're going to podcast on Monday or Tuesday this week, but we're going to have to figure that out because the Tuesday
the game,
Yeah, but look for us early next week, either on a Monday or Wednesday show. See you next time.
Take care, guys.